Hello everyone, this is Katelyn from the Kentwood Parks and Recreation Department, and today I'm going to give you a beer bread recipe because who doesn't love fresh homemade bread right from the oven? This bread is a very dense bread and it's very easy to make. There's only 6 ingredients and we love it in our family with soup or a stew or a chili, but you can also just eat it as it is, or cut it into chunks and use it as a dipping for different dips or even like a fondue. So only 6 ingredients, and the name is beer bread, but it is totally safe for children and adults alike. The alcohol burns off during the cooking process, but it's that yeast and carbonation in the beer that gives it its flavor and rising properties. So let's go over the recipe. All you're gonna need is flour, sugar, salt, baking powder, a can of beer, any kind is fine. I usually go with some sort of light beer, and a half a stick of butter. All right, so first things first, make sure you preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and then we're just gonna throw our ingredients together. So you're gonna start with 3 cups of flour. Add in a 1/4 cup of sugar, a tablespoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, and 1 can of beer. I like to kind of pour it on the side so we don't get too foamy. And as you'll notice, there are no eggs or milk in this recipe. The beer is the only wet ingredient. Stir that up, and your dough should get pretty thick and kind of clumpy, chunky, and that's just fine. So we'll stir it up and get a nice view of that. So once your dough is all mixed together, and like I said, it'll be pretty thick and pretty clumpy, you can go ahead and spray your bread pan, and I just use very standard bread loaf pan. Give it a little spray so it doesn't stick too bad. Pour your dough into the bread pan. Comes out in a nice, easy clump there. Kind of spread it out so it fits the container. And one more step, and we're popping this baby in the oven. So before I put the bread in the oven, I like to pour a half a stick of butter over the top of the loaf, and I do melt that butter in the microwave before I do that. So it takes about 45 seconds to melt a half stick of butter in my microwave. So once it is nice and liquidy, I just pour it over the loaf. And my oven is preheated to 350 degrees. And it's time to put the bread in the oven. Go ahead and let that bake for 1 hour at 350 degrees. And before you know it, your house will be smelling like fresh homemade bread. Okay, it's been an hour, so I'm gonna check on the bread and take it out of the oven. Looks perfect. All right, so once your bread is baked for an hour and you let it cool for about 15 minutes, you can go ahead and carefully remove it from the pan. It should just pop right out like that. You can set it on a towel or the counter or a cooling rack. And there you have your very own homemade beer bread loaf ready to eat. What do you think?
What's that?
You want to eat it?
Yeah.
Me too. Can you say bye?